Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today was round 4 of Llobregat Open Chess Tournament and I played Jaroslav Paprocki from Poland. He's rated 2172, which is about my rating, but he had a peak of about 2260, something like this. So he used to be very strong. He still is. He actually told me after the game that he got an IM norm recently. I believe it was his first one too. So yeah, that's something I don't have. So yeah, that's very impressive by him. But anyway, the game was super interesting. Let's have a look what happened. So I was expecting a lot of different things this game. So when preparing against my opponent, I saw that he plays everything. And by that, I mean everything. So I don't think I've ever seen anyone play 1c3 on the first move that is not a title choose 8 game or like an online game or something. I believe it was not even rapid or blitz or something. I think it was classical. But anyway, he has played c3. He has played a lot of moves, not every move on move 1, or maybe in games that are not on database, but in any case, the games in the database were full of many different moves. So it was really difficult to prepare. I just mainly checked what to do against some of the main openings. And he played d4. That is one opening that I did prepare against. So I played d5, c4, c6, we're in the Slav, knight f3, knight f6, and e3. And here I go e6. So here my opponent went for knight bd2, which is such a slow line. Usually white plays bishop d3, or queen c2, but you also have this setup with b3, and I guess knight bd2 is part of that, because after knight bd2, I went by knight d7, and then my opponent went b3. And yeah, we're now in this position, and I play bishop d6, bishop b2, and here I'm thinking, okay, if I don't do anything, I guess my opponent wants to play knight e5 or something, and I don't really want to allow that so easily, and since my opponent did not play bishop d3, he's not really taking control of the e4 square. So I figured I have to control that square now before it's too late. So I play knight e4, queen c2, f5. And here we start to see some sort of stone wall structure. Bishop e2 was played. My opponent is playing very, very passive. But, you know, I have to prove that it's a bad thing. And it's not so easy to prove that it's a bad thing. It's not a terrible thing to play solid like this. But obviously with white, I guess you would want to try to get an advantage. And if you want to get an advantage, this is not the way, but it can work out. Why not? So here I play queen f6, and at this point, or around this time, I started having flashbacks of my game in Olympiad, where I lost one of my worst games ever, where I sacrificed a piece thinking that I have a crazy attack on the king side, and then turns out that my opponent has one simple defensive move, and it was over suddenly. It was completely unnecessary to sacrifice a piece in that game. And here we are back to that same structure, same type of opening. It's a little bit different, I guess. Well, it's mainly the same, but in any case, now I know what to do, more or less. So short castle was played here. I thought, okay, let's go g5. Let's do it. And I remember in the game in Olympiad, I went short castles and the engine did not like that, or it was not one of the main moves. It was better to play queen f6 and g5 first before castling. So I remembered that and I implemented it in this game. I did quickly check with the engine what the best moves were, or well, I briefly checked things and it did recommend short castle, so I have to properly check what is exactly going on in this position, but anyway. For now, let's continue. Knight takes e4 was played, and here I start to think, which pawn do I capture this knight with? With which pawn? Do I either take with the d pawn or the f pawn? So I was thinking after f takes e4, if then the knight moves, let's say knight to d2, then I thought it was maybe difficult to attack here with h5, and I can play queen h6 to then provoke g3 so that the checkmate on h2 is covered, but I thought it was a bit difficult to attack here, and maybe my opponent plays f3 as soon as possible to open up the f-file. I didn't really like the situation, even though the queen side is pretty much blocked, so it's really difficult for my opponent to attack there, but yeah, I didn't really like my chances here, so in the end I went for d takes e4. knight e2, and queen h6. So this is complicating matters quite a bit because now my opponent is threatening d5, right? Because the bishop is opening up towards the rook, and our rook is a bit sad over there. So g3 was played to prevent the checkmate. If you play h3, it's not a way to defend really because I play g4 and this pawn is pinned, right? Because I still am eyeing on that h2 square. And it's suddenly really difficult to defend here for white. So that's why g3 is the best move. Another idea is to play f4, let's say, to shut the diagonal down. But then I have en passant, and after knight takes f3, let's say there's g4, and the pawn on e3 is simply going to be captured on the next turn. So that's why g3 is necessary. Knight f6 is what I played with the idea that if my opponent, let's say, plays c5, bishop c7, knight c4 to play either knight d6 or knight e5, my idea is to then play f4. And my knight is covering that pawn on e4 to make sure that the queen cannot take that pawn and get closer to the king side. So this attack, to me, feels pretty much crushing. Maybe there's some d5 shenanigans, but as long as I have f3 and then queen h3 in the air, I think this is completely winning for black. So in any case, rook a1 was played instead. So here I was thinking, okay, what do I actually do? Because I guess my opponent wants to play move d5. I think that's what my opponent's trying to do here. And the things get really complicated as there is this pin going on this diagonal. So here I played the move rook g8, thinking that, okay, I'm going to get out of that diagonal. So my pieces are safe here. The knight on f6 is all right. And here my opponent goes for the move d5 anyway. I thought, what? I thought I made sure that that's not going to happen by playing rook g8. And then he still plays it. And I thought, what? I thought it was crazy. So I take, c takes d5. And here, if I take with a c pawn, there's some knight c4 move attacking that bishop. The knight is getting really active. And the pawn on d5 is really bad. I'm up a pawn, but that pawn is not going anywhere. So I'd rather not have a pawn on d5, right? So that's why I take back with the knight. Also, just to illustrate, after knight c4, if takes, rook takes, this knight is very sad on f6. So yeah, and also the king is very sad. The king is also very sad. So that's why knight takes e5 is what I played instead. And here, my opponent went for knight c4 anyway. And here I thought, okay, clearly my opponent wants to take on d6. And if I, let's say, play bishop c7, then maybe something with, I don't know, knight e5 or bishop e5 comes in. And I don't really like my position, honestly. I guess knight e5 is really annoying, especially because the rook takes d5 is an actual threat. And if I try to prevent that, let's say with queen e6, then the bishop comes in with check, bishop h5. And I thought, okay, we're not having this. We're not going to allow that to happen. So that's why I thought I have to shut down the diagonal of that bishop so I'm not getting checked here. And I should be safe here. Here my opponent took on d6. I was pretty happy about that because this knight can be really annoying. And I thought, well, this bishop is not of much use anyway anymore. Even though I'd rather have the pair of bishops, but I couldn't really do much about this. So the bishop is gone, queen takes d6, but so is the knight. So bishop c4, of course I defend with the bishop because after bishop takes, I don't want to take with the pawn. I'm not taking that with the pawn because that pawn is pretty much... It means nothing. It cannot do anything. Queen e2. And here I'm thinking, what do I do? I'm up a pawn. Why is it so difficult to come up with a plan here? Because obviously I want to play h5, h4, or maybe rook g6, rook h6, and somehow play queen, I don't know, teleport it to h3 and checkmate. But if you think about it, it's actually not so easy to make all of this happen. Because once I play h5, h4, I mean, if I want to make progress, I have to take on g3 because playing h3 does not really help much. I don't really have enough pieces to infiltrate in the king side. So that's why after h5, h4, I have to take on g3. And the problem here is that my opponent is going to take with the f pawn, not with the h pawn. Because if you take with the h pawn, obviously the h file opens up and somehow my pieces will attack there. But with the f pawn, the h file is covered as that pawn on h2 is going to cover the h file. And white's pieces are really easily defending that pawn. So with rook f2, and you're completely fine with white. So that's why I thought, okay, if I don't really have this plan, then what else do I have? I mean, I'm up a pawn on the queen side, so maybe I can create a passed pawn there. But then where is that happening? Because my king does not really have a safe spot. If only I could put my king on h5, I think that's the safest spot for the king in this game. But I mean, if I even manage to get there without losing material, it would be like a miracle. But it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. Also in the endgame, I think my king would be terrible in h5. But yeah, it feels strange. This position feels very strange, and there's all sorts of tactics in the position. I ended up playing rook g6, thinking that this bishop needs to be defended, and yeah, maybe at some point, I was afraid of the move b4. That was the move I was afraid of. So let's say I play king f7, just to illustrate, I was afraid of b4 because that is fixing my pawn structure on the queen side quite a bit. If knight takes, obviously the queen is hanging, so if queen takes b4, then the problem is that my opponent has bishop takes d5, an intermediate move, and now my queen is hanging, and if I, let's say, try to trade queens, then this comes with check. Yeah, we don't want that. So that's why I cannot move my king just yet, and I wanted to play rook g6 first, not f7, g6. My opponent goes for queen d4, and here I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what to do, because my pawn on a7 needs to be defended, so I cannot really move my rook. I'm not able to play long castle anymore, but I was not really planning to play long castle in the first place because I thought my king will be targeted quite a bit. Queen d4 is a really annoying move. Also, there's always queen a5 also in the air, so there's many ideas for white that are just super annoying, and I'm just struggling here to make the right moves because I played king e7. I was thinking about king f7 for the longest time, but I didn't like that all of these things are on the same diagonal. And it just felt right to play king e7, I guess. But after bishop c3, I kind of regretted it because suddenly my opponent's threatening bishop takes d5. Let's say I play a random move h6, bishop takes, and if pawn takes, I lose a queen. And I guess I have to play queen takes, but yeah, this is probably the last move I want to play. Actually, queen b4 check. I mean, maybe I'm holding on here, but I feel like I'm just going to end up in a losing position very soon. So that's why I really didn't like this position whatsoever. And it's so strange because I'm up a pawn. There should be something for me here, right? Like my king is very vulnerable, but it should not be that bad. I mean, we traded quite a few pieces and all my pieces are around the king, right? It should count for something. So I played a5 to prevent any sort of b4 shenanigans, whether that's bishop b4 or pawn to b4. And my opponent went for queen d2, and I thought, oh my goodness, because how do I defend this pawn? If I play b6, I'm creating more weaknesses in my position. So I had to play queen c7, but that just feels uncomfortable too. My opponent went for bishop takes d5. I was pretty happy about that because I didn't really know what to do. I really wanted to trade. At the same time, I don't want to trade because this knight is very strong, but I don't really know what to play. I don't really want to move the knight, but I also want to just place it somewhere else, like somewhere else on the board instead of this square. It's a very strange feeling. Really hard to explain that. But okay, bishop takes d5 was played. I was really happy about that because, you know, trading pieces is nice here. The more pieces I trade, the nicer it is. Especially queen trade would be amazing here, but that's obviously the last thing my opponent is going to do. Okay, so my mic dropped. I don't know at which point, but I felt that something dropped and I figured it was the mic, and it was the mic. So let's continue. I really hope that not much got cut out there, but anyway, let's continue where I was. So rook c1 was played, and I have to be really careful here because there's all sorts of tricks with queen takes d5 in the air. Not yet, but soon enough. Soon enough. If I play, let's say, b6 here, bishop takes a5 is already losing material as far as I could tell during the game because, let's say, b takes a5, there's queen takes d5, obviously. And if rook takes a5, which is defending the bishop on d5, so it seems like this is completely fine, there's b4. And if rook takes a2, there's queen takes d5 once again. I don't think I'm winning here at all. I may actually be on the losing end here, but maybe I can hold it. But yeah, if rook b5, you try to defend the bishop one more time, there's a4. And my rook is stuck. So that's why I was not sure what was going on here. I thought this is not looking good. And I struggle to make moves because I don't have a plan. The only plan I have is to not lose. So king e6 is what I play. Rook fd1, and I play h5, which is like a desperate move, a desperate attempt to complicate matters and hope that something works on HL, because I can physically not think of a move. I cannot comprehend how I can continue here without losing a pawn, without losing material. I mean, do I have to end up playing rook h7? I don't know. So yeah, it was pretty depressing to be in this position. Bishop b2 is played, queen d6, because, well, queen takes d5 is the threat now, so we have to defend the bishop. Rook c4. I was really caught off guard by this move, and I thought maybe I can do something about this, or I can use this to my advantage, because if I move the queen, then maybe that's, the rook is hanging, and the rook may get stuck on the 4th rank. You never know. I played b5 just because I thought, okay, I have to do something here and attack, and maybe I get some advantage on the queen side this way by pushing the pawns. Rook d4 is played, and here I play b4 to shut the rook down, but what I didn't realize is that my opponent can play a3, and I thought, ooh, that is an annoying move, because if I play b takes a3, it looks like a free pawn. It's not a free pawn. Bishop takes a3, queen takes a3, rook takes d5. Beautiful sacrifice, because after c takes d5, queen takes d5, and this rook is hanging, and my king is as exposed as a king can get. And I'm not like losing material, I guess, but I think sooner or later my king will be checkmated. I'm pretty sure about that. So I play rook b8 to just defend. A takes b4, a takes b4. I did consider rook takes b4, but I couldn't quite justify just playing rook takes b4, and I thought, let's just take back with the pawn. Also, I was down to 1 minute here, so yeah. My time management was a little bit better this game, but the last few moves, I was struggling so much to just find a normal looking move that doesn't lose on the spot, that all my time went there, basically. And yeah, I tried my best to not end in time trouble, but I ended up in time trouble anyway. But my opponent played rook a1 here. I played queen c5 because, well, I kind of want to capture that pawn if possible on b3, so I get out of the pin this way. And here my opponent for rook c1. So I'm guessing that my opponent didn't like that I could take the pawn on b3. But yeah, I thought that rook a6 would be interesting to try, but then again, do you want to risk that much? I don't know. It's a very tough position. My opponent went rook c1. I played queen d6 because, yeah, if I play queen b5, my opponent may actually play rook c4 to attack that pawn b4 one more time. If bishop takes, I thought rook d6 check, king runs, rook d7 check. Yeah, maybe I can survive this, but with 30 seconds on the clock, I think I will make a blunder very easily. If it's not lost, that is, not yet, but yeah, this looks like a disaster to me. I mean, my pieces are completely stuck, and I think even with a rook down, I can just not do anything. Also, b takes c4 will happen on next turn anyway, so yeah, it's not even that much material for me to compensate this with. So yeah, I just went back because I thought, I don't really know what else to do. And my opponent went rook a1. I thought, wow, is my opponent actually repeating? I thought I'm just playing queen c5 back and repeating because I want to reach the 40th move and get my 15 minutes extra time. I could really use that. And my opponent went rook a1 back, and I'm like, I guess we're doing it, huh? I guess we're doing it. So queen c5, rook c1, and my opponent offered a draw. Like I'm pretty sure I could have claimed the draw, but I was in the middle of, I don't really want a draw, but I guess a draw is the best way to go. But I don't want to draw. I'm up a pawn. There should be something for me here, right? And it feels like the game just got started and everything. But yeah, I could not find any better move than going back and forth. And I think I should be really happy with this result because my position was quite a disaster. But yeah, it was just a feeling of I don't want to take the draw, but it is the right thing to do, and sometimes you just have to settle for the draw because there's no better choice. So anyway, with that being said, that was an interesting game, to say the least. I wanted more out of this game. I was really excited to attack and to crush my opponent on the king side, but it was not meant to be. It was not possible to happen, and my opponent defended really well. So I'm going to check properly what to do at the start of the game, at the opening, how to incorporate my plans properly. But I guess I should be happy with the draw. It could have gone really much worse for me. So yeah, we just try to do better next time. Tomorrow I'll probably be playing with white pieces, so I'm gonna get some good rest. I'm gonna get ready for tomorrow, and let's try our best once again, because the tournament is just getting started for me. We're just getting started. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.